Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all first for being here at our first meeting of the TV Highway Transit and Safety Projects Policy and Budget Committee. Before we start, I would like to thank the City of Cornelius for hosting us today, and I'm glad that we could be right here for today's discussion. Also want to thank my fellow members for making time to be part of this important project. So thank you all for being here with us today. Collaboration among partners is absolutely essential for a successful project, and I'm really looking forward to getting to know you more through our work together. So many of us already know each other, but for those that are watching at home or who may not know me, I'm Sam DeSue Jr. I'm TriMet's General Manager. So let's start with introductions and partner updates, and I'll go to my right, and then we'll get all the members in the room. So maybe we go here and around. Okay, want to go?
Want to go to the left?
We'll go to the left then. All right.
Happy to do
We're
it,
gonna start it off.
Yeah, so should I just introduce myself
Please.
and give updates? Or should I just introduce myself and then we'll give updates?
Just an intro.
All right. Well, hey, everyone. For folks that have joined us and folks that are online, Juan Carlos Gonzalez, Metro Councilor for District 4, which includes the beautiful city of Cornelius, my hometown. So huge. Yet, or might be online, for hosting us, and it's always just great to be out in the community.
Great, thank you, Juan Carlos. Jerry Willie, Washington County Commissioner, District 4, and three of the cities that in District 4 are Hillsborough, Forest Grove, and Cornelius, so this is an important project, certainly. Brian.
Brian Schimmel, City Councilor, City of Forest Grove, very close neighbor to Cornelius. I feel like I'm auditioning for the City Council here since there's an opening. Yeah, we are also very excited for this project. You know, transportation accessibility is really critical for us here on the far west side of the county.
Hello, I'm Anna Deanna Johnson. I use they, them pronouns. I'm pleased to be here as part of this group. I reside in Forest Grove and make good use of the public transit along the line. More later.
Good evening. My name is Kimberlyn Sinclair. I'm a Hillsborough City Councilor and very happy to be here tonight. This is a very important project for our community. I look forward to talking more.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Turner. I'm the Area Manager West for ODOT, Oregon Department of Transportation, and that includes Tualatin Valley Highway and Line 57. So I'm happy to be here and happy to participate.
And then we have a couple folks online. So Ashley, Councilor Hartmeyer-Prigg, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ashley Hartmeyer-Prigg. I use she, her pronouns. City Councilor.
And then Mayor Delane, I see you there as well. If you are in a safe place and able to introduce yourself, please do.
I'm in my truck driving towards you right now. So Jeff Klein, Mayor Cornelius. I'll see you guys in a few minutes.
Back to you, Sam.
All right, thanks everyone, and especially I want to thank Anna Deanna Johnson for volunteering her time to represent the project's Community Advisory Committee, or the CAC. Really appreciate you being here on that. Okay, as we move forward here, I want to also thank staff from all of our partner jurisdictions who are supporting the project. So the Metro team I know is here as well. You did such great work, so thank you for leading the planning phase. Also, I want to thank the staff from Metro, ODOT, Washington County, Hillsborough, Beaverton, Cornelius, Forest Grove, and of course TriMet are continuing to this strong collaborative workforce to moving towards this. So can I just have all staff kind of raise your hand just to thank you? Yeah, thank you guys.
Salute.
I want to take a moment to share why this project remains among my top priorities, even as TriMet faces one of the most extreme budget challenges in our history. Also want you to know that we're making some very tough decisions and cuts to our service in an effort to balance our budget over the next 2 years. And this is being done with care and compassion and a data-driven, community-informed process as we move forward. So while we know that any service cuts are painful, and as I was telling someone down in Milwaukee 2 days ago, it just hurts me to my core to cut any service. We are focusing on lowering ridership times in areas and where other services is nearby. So Line 57 on TV Highway Corridor is one of our highest ridership lines, serving some of our most diverse populations, and it's at the heart. This is a safety project that improves access to transit and provides modern bus stop amenities and a high injury corridor. Riders who depend on the Line 57 to get to work, school, do their shopping, and connect with their community deserves reliable transit service with reasonable wait times to help them plan their lives. The TV Highway Corridor has been long identified as a priority for major transit investment, and previous plans for the corridor have documented the challenges facing transit riders. The list is long. I'm going to give you a couple. From the 2009 High Capacity Transit HCT System Plan, the 2013 Tualatin Valley Corridor Plan, the 2018 Regional Transportation Plan, or RTP, the 2018 Regional Transit Strategy, the 2019 Moving Forward TV Highway Enhanced Transit and Access Plan, and the 2023 Regional Transportation Plan. They all have called for major transit and safety investments in the corridor. TriMet and all of you as members of this Policy and Budget Committee are champions for this project and ready to answer the community's call to action. This project is the best opportunity we have had in over a decade to make the investments this corridor deserves. I know my team knows that we all have high expectations, and they will lead us through the challenges and opportunities this project provides. So this brings me to an exercise that I asked each of you to complete. And I sent you a collaboration tool that helps us build the word cloud that you see on the screens in front of you. In advance of today's meeting, I've asked you, what values are you bringing to your role as a Policy and Budget Committee member? Your answers populated this word cloud. So let's take a look at what we see in front of us. We talked about partnership, safety and community, and pedestrian safety, affordability, inclusion, stewardship, accessibility, leadership here, and the experience of the rider. So are there any values missing from this slide? Are there any additional connections people can make from the values? Just open it up to the board.
Building an improved, accessible future. I know it's not just one word like that wanted, but
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay.
Yeah, I think I have one. I mean, I think, you know, Sam, you're talking about TriMet's budget and just the general state of transit in the state, and I think opportunity, transit at its nature is helping people connect from point A to point B, to connect to opportunity, to jobs, to things that can serve their families and change the lives of their families. And so I think that's a really important framing too that I'm thinking about, especially as people are struggling and families are hurting more and more.
Yeah, I really appreciate you saying that. Now more than any time, transit is vital and critical to taking people opportunities. And I think that we need to make sure that we keep that at the forefront as we move forward here.
I have another one. Yeah, this is Ana Diana again. And it just occurred to me, independence. because that's what it brings to so many people, is the independent ability to be able to go to where you need.
I appreciate that. If you think about, 35% of TriMet ridership are people that are transit dependent. And if you take that away, what that means from an interdependent standpoint or independent standpoint. Any other thoughts?
One I think about is consistency for ridership to our community who rely on transportation for their health, for everyday essentials, and to their jobs.
I really appreciate that. One of the things that I'm pushing in the organization with the consistency piece is for us to be reliable to the public, making sure that we're consistent and reliable, safe and clean as people are using us to transport to opportunities. But thank you for that. Any other thoughts?
Counselor Hartmeyer Prigg online.
Thank you. Am I echoing for you all?
Now you good.
Okay.
We hear you.
Okay, great. So partnership, community, and safety. I went back to the start of this with Juan Carlos and the other members who helped kind of kick this off. And these three words are so important because no matter where you live on the corridor, we need one another for this project to be successful. And we all are looking out for our community and the objectives that we've set. And I'm just really excited to be in this next phase together to bring it to life, to help result in like a truly safe corridor. I really appreciated that comment about independence. That independence also helps you create the community and make you feel more included.
Thank you, Counselor. I really appreciate that. Just thinking about we need one another. That's so critical to make this project successful. I don't think we can get there without the need of each other. So I really appreciate that point you brought forward there. Okay, so we will continue to bring this forward to each meeting. And I just want to thank you all for the conversation and this exercise. It really helps clarify your expectations and how we evaluate our success as we're moving through. We'll revisit this throughout the project, and we'll make sure that our team is always pointing towards your North Star, which is part of the values. So we have welcomed everyone, I think, that's online, right, Nick? And introduced our committee members. We talked about our values. Now we'll take a minute to talk about committee protocols that I want to bring up. So starting with committee roles and protocols, this group is here to provide guidance and recommendations toward a transit project that serves people along TV Highway well into the future. And this is a forum for collaborative discussion, and I will facilitate our discussion along with our staff. So each meeting will include public comment. I'll ask guests who do not have enough time to finish their comments or who have questions to speak with staff. And I understand that there are a lot of opportunities for community engagement, and we need to hold this meeting time for our work as a committee. So when we get into the presentations, let's hold our questions until the end of each presentation, and then I will ask that people either tip your name card or raise your hand as we move forward and be ready to speak. So just want to make sure, does that sound good to everybody as we move forward here? Okay. Thank you. So now let's take a quick look at our agenda before starting with public comment. Today, like most of our meetings, we will hear an update from our Community Affairs team. Our Community Affairs staff is TriMet's face of the project in the community, and they are working with your constituents on a day-to-day basis. The bulk of our meeting today will be on two important topics where I need your feedback. The first is the station locations here in downtown Cornelius and the types of buses that will serve the corridor. So I want to just make sure, are there any questions about how we're going to spend our time today as we move forward? Okay. So now for public comment. Nick, do we have anyone signed up? Okay, that's great. All right, so we'll move through that. No one signed up today, so again, letting the public know, please visit us and sign up if you have comments to make. Okay, so I want to introduce Nick Whitcomb, our Community Affairs Coordinator, and Jamie Sanik-Paz, our Community Affairs Specialist. Nick, can you please give us an update on the work that you've been doing so far to ensure our Policy and Budget Committee is able to hear from the community?
Yes, thank you so much, Sam, and hello to everyone. Again, I'm Nick Whitcomb, Community Affairs Coordinator at TriMet, working on the TV Highway Transit and Safety Project. I live just off the corridor, so I live out here in Washington County, so this project is super special to me, so thrilled to see you all here in this capacity. We have been doing a lot of great work since through the planning phase. A lot of great engagement happened via Metro with the support from the TriMet team, but now that we are in the design phase, even more exciting things are happening. So we've formed our Community Advisory Committee. We were really proud of our outreach, and thank you to all the staff in the room who really helped us get the word out to all the community members. Great representation from across the county, from folks ages 18 to 80. And so we got a really wide batch of folks, and Ana Diana will tell us a little later about who's on that committee with her, or with them. And then we elected our chair, Ana Diana, who is here on this committee. So very excited to hear from them a little later. We also are, we're on our third FX project here at TriMet, and so in that process, we've done a lot of work in the, in the onboarding that we did with you all, the chartering for our committees, and also we've made some plans for continued engagement and communications with the community throughout the project. So we have an engagement and outreach and engagement plan, which are our tactics and strategies to engage the community and build support for the project. And that's through the design phase, and it even goes up to preparing business owners and property owners for what the construction process will look like. So making sure that from this point through the point where we're going to be implementing these things, that we have a touch point with the community to make sure that they know what's coming and where to reach if they have any questions. And then we also have our communications plan, which is how we're going to get the message out and tell the story about this project. Make sure that folks are understanding when these conversations are happening, working closely with our communications team to make sure that we all have the story that we're telling together. And then, of course, a lot of coordination across all these jurisdictions to make sure that you're also aligned on the message and the vision we're bringing to the community so that we can all have the same conversation as we're bringing this beautiful project to life. So with that, I'm going to pass the mic over to Ana Diana, who's going to tell us a bit more about our Community Advisory Committee.
Thank you. Thank you, Nick. And again, I'm Ana Diana Johnson, and I have the privilege of being the chair of the Community Advisory Committee for this transit and safety project. And it's truly my pleasure to be able to serve as part of this, because there are so many important things which will touch so many different lives. And as a resident of Forest Grove, I rely on the transit to be able to get around. The CAC, we've met twice this year so far, and we've had some rather robust discussions regarding which stops would be best to keep in Cornelius. And anyway, we have representatives from transit, business, community stakeholder groups such as the West Side Transportation Alliance, West Side Economic Alliance, Centro Cultural, Virginia Garcia Memorial Health Center, Washco Bicycles, and myself, I'm a member of the Committee on Accessible Transportation and have been a member of that for 8 years and part of their executive committee as well. And I thank my committee, my fellow committee members, for putting their trust in me to be able to represent our voices here at this forum. And I look forward to pursuing a very safe and effective and reliable service to help shore up what's desperately needed here along TV Highway. And Nick, thank you.
Thank you, Ana Diana. I also just want to take a moment to shout out Ann Thrall-Nash, who is our vice chair for the Community Advisory Committee. So she is also here in the room with us. So really great folks. We have those meetings the third Monday of every month, so come and join us if you want to see the conversations happening. And back to you, Sam.
Yeah, thank you both for that presentation. Really appreciate that, and thank you again for your service to the committee as well. Are there any questions about our outreach plans or Community Advisory Committee?
I don't have any. I just want to give some recognition to Ana Diana. 3 hours ago, they were at Metro with us as we were working on another massive project on Willamette Cove, and tremendous leadership to help create accessibility in what will hopefully be a beautiful project for this region. And I just like, oh, it's so great to see you again. And I just wanted to celebrate you and thank you for your work on the
Thank you.
Advisory Committee.
Bravo. Anybody online? All right, well, thank you. Thank you so much. Now I will turn things over, the presentation to Michael Kaiser, our Interim Director of Major Projects, to bring us up to speed on project status.
Thank you, Sam. Great to see all of you. My name is Michael Kaiser. I'm the Interim Director of Major Projects at TriMet. I am very excited to be here at this first policy and budget meeting for TV Highway. We certainly have learned a lot over the last several years about this corridor and how TriMet fits into the regional planning along this major high-use corridor. We are designing this project to meet the moment and, as has been mentioned already, to make this corridor safer for the communities that are served by transit. The purpose of the TV Highway Transit and Safety Project is to improve travel times, reliability, accessibility, and very importantly, safety for all riders on TriMet's highest ridership line in Washington County. This project will provide improved access to stations, faster travel times, service reliability, and ensuring that transit-dependent communities will have access to key destinations in the region. Everyone around this table knows how dangerous TV Highway is, especially for those walking and accessing transit. Since February 2025, the last time TV Highway met as a steering committee, 3 pedestrians have died in traffic-related crashes in our project area. Truly unfortunate. We know that we have the tools to design a safer pedestrian environment, and this project will deliver on those improvements together with you all. So today we're going to start with a high-level view of our timeline and where we are. In future meetings, we will come back and we'll discuss the schedule and the budget and learn more about NEPA activities, I think, at our next meeting. But this really gives us a high view of where we are currently. So right now we are in the early stages of design, in 15% design, which will go through 2027 and be followed by final design and construction starting in 2028. Our goal is to have this line open and operational before school starts in 2030. So there's a lot to do between now and then, but with this strong team and the community support and your all's support, we know we can get there. In our initial project development phase, partners came together to secure $25 million for this initial design effort. The next big step for committing local funds through the FTA's Capital Investment Grant Program will come in this August. We'll be working with staff to develop IGAs over the next several months and close funding gaps and secure funding so that we are set up for a strong rating through that CIG process with FTA. Last year, all project partners, and I'll kind of move on to the next here. Last year, all projects. Oh, I'm sorry. Sam, did you have?
Yes, appreciate it, Michael. Thank you for that. I just want to state that this information really underscores the importance of our work as partners and matching the project scope with the available budget. There were some words that you brought up that I wrote down: safety, speed, reliability, comfort, and community. Just as we look at our word cloud, there were some things I think we need to add to the word cloud. And I think the other piece that I was very excited to hear is moving into project development. And I just want to tell all of our partners around the diocese here, really appreciate your commitment on the funding to move us into project development as we move forward. And we know from our values conversation that, you know, we all have expectations for this project here, but our goal really is to, as a committee, is to balance competing expectations, maximize outcomes, and ensure this project is fully funded as we move forward and that it opens on time. I think those things are very critical. So I want to just stop, because I know you put 2 slides up, and see if the committee have any questions to the first 2 slides that you put up on the screen.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. I think my only comment would be that I'll be happy that I'll see this project to its fruition in 2030. I'll be kicking around doing something different than I'm doing right now, but I believe this is the 3rd TV highway study project I've been on, and so I'm really happy to see this one actually come to completion and we get something done, because it's desperately needed.
I really appreciate your comments. I will tell you, you definitely have TriMet's commitment and my commitment as a leader to make sure we do the right things and we have a successful project moving forward. Any other questions?
I have a quick question. Yeah. And thank you to Peter for reminding me to turn on my microphone. The acoustics in this building are just sensational. I thought the mic was on. So
First public meeting.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. You'd think.
When he came as a child, we didn't have it. We had to use the megaphone.
Yeah. Actually, Mayor, the technology then was the ellipses that had the natural confluence of audio. Anyway, he's an engineer. I know he'll laugh at that. Michael, thank you. I'm just trying to get caught up into all the funding stacks and things like that. So I know last year, JPAC, the Regional Flexible Fund, made a significant allocation. So it was close to $30 million. I know it wasn't quite that, but what phase of the 2025, 2026 is that being held for the future in construction? Can you help me understand kind of color of money, how we're stacking it? And I know that all of the local partners have also committed money. So I'm trying to figure out between that 20 to 50 million delta, kind of what do we need to raise?
Yeah. Like I said, next time we are here next month, we will
Yeah.
go into a deeper dive.
thank
But I
you,
will
sorry.
say, as a condition of going into project development with FDA, we had to commit this 25 million upfront. That covers us for the most part through the end of design, which would be really into 2028. The RUFA funding, regional flexible funds would then go into action as we get into construction in 2028. So
Perfect,
we have a
thank
little
you.
bit of time there. But I will say we are really going to be focused in the next several months and looking at how do we close the gap? How do we secure those funds? It just provides assurance for the project, but also will improve our ratings with the federal government and helps us manage risk along the way. So, but thank you for bringing that up.
Any other questions? Anybody online? Okay, Michael, we'll move into section 2.
Okay. All right. So Cornelius Station refinement is one of our key topics today. As many of you recall, last year we all adopted a locally preferred alternative, or LPA, showing general station locations, with the exception of this area in Cornelius, because we wanted more time to study and evaluate and get feedback on informing a decision around those stations. So since then, we've kicked off the design phase, which has allowed us to conduct analysis and engagement necessary in determining what the best configuration of stations through downtown Cornelius would be. In January, we held our first Community Advisory Committee meeting introducing this topic and enabled us to dig further into the analysis. We came back in February with some additional analysis responsive to questions, and I think we had a great discussion. Gwen's going to get into that, provide a summary overview of the feedback in a few slides. Through this time, we've also been coordinating with our staff, and we'll be able to present on some of the data and conclusions coming out of that later in our presentation. As mentioned, our design team has held off on work in this area for the 15% design phase, which we are in now. But as we move into 30%, really in April of this year, we need to have a decision so that we can keep design progressing and avoid any delays there. In your handout, which I think all of you have received, you'll see many of the slides that Gwen is going to be presenting and that were shared with the CAC through this process. Gwen is a lead team member and has been performing that analysis, engaging Community Advisory Committee and the design team on this issue. So I'm going to pass the mic to Gwen, and she can walk through this analysis. So Gwen, take it away.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Gwen Eckelman, Deputy Design Manager on the TV Highway Project. So this slide summarizes the analysis and information that we discussed in detail with our Community Advisory Committee and really represents a lot of the slides in your handouts. We won't go through all of those slides, but they are there for your perusal. We took into consideration both the existing and future land uses and the destinations, and we explored the walking and rolling differences to these destinations for each of the options. The walkshed maps show the overall coverage provided by each option, taking into account the railroads and street network, which we know can cause significant barriers and limitations. Ride Connection is a service out here that provides several bus routes in Washington County that support the TriMet system, and the Cornelius Link route is added to the map graphics in your packet for context. We will be coordinating with them in future phases as needed to ensure the connections between our service and theirs are maintained in a logical way. So without further ado, we'll go to the next slide and we can look at the options that are for consideration. So this is a lot. We'll sit on this slide for a second as I talk you through it. This slide summarizes the three options Each box includes the street names and color-coded distances between the stations. I want to note that all of these options are viable, and that's been kind of the discussion that we've had with the community. They meet our standards, but I'll quickly kind of go what the color coding talks about. So the yellow boxes are representing the walking distances that are on the lower end of the desired FX spacing. The orange boxes, on the other hand, show the distances that are at the higher end of that acceptable range. And then the green boxes are kind of the sweet spot of indicating spacing that aligns most closely with the ideal FX stop spacing, which is about 1/3 of a mile. So I'll describe each option now, and we'll dig into the trade-offs shortly before opening it up for discussion. Option A on the top is 4 total stops, with stops at 4th, 12th, 20th, and 26th. Option B in the middle is 5 total stops, with stops at 4th, 10th, 14th, 20th, and 26th. Option C is 5 total stops, with stops at 4th, 10th, 14th, and then 20th / the Fred Meyer driveway, and 26th. So note the difference between B and C. They're very similar, but the westbound station near Fred Meyer changes. In option B, it'd be a new station on the far side of 20th, and option C uses the existing pullout near the Fred Meyer driveway. Some work will need to be done to build out the full station, but we don't expect it to impact the Fred Meyer driveway operations, and it will be similar to other reused pullouts along the corridor. This next slide shows, highlights, this is a map highlighting the key destinations and planned development in the area. So the yellow boxes represent 850 plus units of future housing near the 20th, 26th Fred Meyer driveway and beyond. So kudos to Cornelius. The orange box marks the new elementary school. This is right across the street from where we are today. The new school is in the top right corner of that orange box. The old school's gym is being reused as part of the community center that will be built around it, as well as a new plaza in the bottom left corner right at 14th across from the library, again, right near where we are. The green boxes indicate city-owned properties at 10th and 14th that may be developed in the future. And the purple boxes represent a wide range of key community destinations, including grocery stores, health centers, social services, and community gathering spaces. Pressed really hard on this button, so sorry about that. This slide summarizes the feedback that we heard from our Community Advisory Committee. We went through a lot more details. All those slides in your packet we talked about and looked at with them in detail over the course of 2 meetings. And the overall support was for options B and C. There was, appreciation and, some feelings about the folks representing the destinations on the downtown core near 12th, but they really indicated the flexibility and understanding all of the options at play. There was some preference for option C and utilizing that existing Fred Meyer driveway, though others noted that option B provides that more evenly distributed stations. There's general appreciation expressed for the community-focused safety enhancements, including the installation of a rapid flashing beacon at baseline at 12th, which we are including regardless of which option is going to be picked. And so that will really help provide that connection and network. It will have that enhanced crossing and provide the redundancy for the network, regardless of the options. So if it's at 12th or 10th or 14th. One more slide before we dig into the trade-offs. I'd like to say one more time that each of these stations meet the requirements for station spacing and placement. This is loosely captured in the top line of this chart. When we compared walking distances, each of the options had some benefits, but also had some longer distances. Pages 9 and 8 in your handout reference that work. So those are good charts showing the differences. Zooming out, this slide summarizes the trade-offs we saw while doing the analysis, and each option has strengths. Though, as you can see, there are some options that meet more of the considerations than others, especially related to neighborhood coverage, use of full signals, and supporting future development. When looking between B and C, there are different trade-offs. Option B has stations in both directions placed at 20th, connecting to the north and south, whereas option C doesn't connect directly to the south at that Fred Meyer driveway. Option C has potential cost savings because it utilizes the existing pullout instead of requiring a new one like option B would. So I'll now pass it back to Sam to pose some questions and open up the discussion.
Thank you, Gwen and Michael. Really appreciate that presentation and really helping to distill the analysis very clearly to us. So I want to just turn to the committee. Do you have any questions before the group that's here? A couple things I want you to take in consideration. One is which station location option should TriMet advance in project design? The second is what else should we be considering when designing stations in downtown Cornelius? So Mayor DeLynn, I think that since we're talking about your front door, let's start with you.
Way to put me on the spot here. I'm glad that the, first thanks to TriMet, City Manager Brandon and I got a chance to go down and meet with you guys kind of before this and look over a lot of the data and the numbers and stuff you guys are kind of having privy to now. And I really do appreciate that the community group also came to the same conclusion that, 4th, 10th, 12th. The 10th, 12th one was really the big argument point. So I think we're kind of into the easier territory of now figuring out the 19th versus the 20th versus Fred Meyer. To me, if you look through the data, the gimme to use the South Side 19th bus stop is just logical. It's already a highly used bus stop. It gets a lot of traffic. It's right at the light. So you've got the safest possible place to cross when you're crossing TV Highway. Fred Meyer's, you can see the numbers, right? It's kind of a little better than 19th or 20th is right now for its westbound, but we think when we get 850 apartments, we're probably going to pick up a little more folks using the bus. And that development really kind of goes from 20th to 26th. So those 850 apartments basically bridge those two bus stops, basically, so people can go out either way. Because one of the things I see right now that is super scary as we talk about our key point on our word graph was safety, is people crossing at Fred Meyer's now to get on the bus stop that's directly across the street and not using the Fred Meyer light. So it's dark, it's rainy, and constantly people are trying to avoid hitting people there. And that is one of the places one of the 3 fatalities you guys spoke about was at the Fred Meyer's for somebody trying to get to the eastbound bus, we assume, crossed there and was struck and killed. If you're asking the mayor's perspective, I kind of like the idea of us putting the northbound on the 20th side. We've already got a seat with digital and a pull out there. So I think it's probably the least cost option versus where you look at 20th on the north side where you basically have to come up with a whole new station. It's basically the ever popular TV Highway definition, a pole on the side of the street. So that's kind of where I tend to lead towards the 20th on the north side and it's Fred Meyer's on the north side and 20th on the south, 19th, 20th on the south side. So that's my 2 cents on that. Interested what other folks have to say and feel about these.
I appreciate that. Just Gwen and Michael, for confirmation with me, was that option C?
Yes,
Okay.
and I was going to also
Got it.
point out, if you haven't looked, the ridership that was being referred to is in that packet that really just shows that ridership is currently there, and the crossing to get to this pair of it is not as ideal as the crossing at the 20th, which summarizes what you were saying.
Commissioner, I meant to say Councilor Hartmeyer Brigg, I heard you're online.
Yeah, I have a question. And Gwen, could you go to the page that had the green dots? Okay, so on this one, and I'm not as familiar with the Cornelius community, so Mayor Dilling, maybe this question is even for you. But in the directly connects to the north and south, is that connecting to another transit line?
No, it's
Like
this.
I'm looking in the detailed.
Yeah, I can speak to that. So at the Fred Meyer driveway and the Fred Meyer location, south of there, there's no pedestrian or street network because the railroad is in the way. And so only when you can go across at 20th, that is where the connection can be made to the south. Both connect to the north, so it's really the distinction of the south for the B and C. Does that help clarify?
Well, so we're saying there might not be a safe crossing.
No,
option C to get to the south side.
Option C would still use the crossing. You just have to go a little bit more out of the way. You'd be walking from the Fred Meyer driveway over to 20th to continue south. Whereas if you pick 20th, you are at the intersection and continue straight south. And so that's the connectivity, direct connectivity that is being referred to.
And that's the high, if you
Okay,
look in the
thank
right.
you.
Yeah, and if you look at the ridership, that 19th, 20th connector on the south side, that is a high ridership. That's actually higher than the other ones, basically, because it does connect down into the neighborhoods below it. If you cross the highway at Fred Meyer's to the south side, which would be the eastbound, there's nowhere to go. You're basically just coming out of the Fred Meyer's to go eastbound. So you can't get in, you get no feed from the south side, and the feed from the north is the Fred Meyer's. But we're already seeing that most of the riders that are going eastbound go up to the light, cross over, and get on the bus at the 20th on the south side. So it's kind of a no-brainer for us from the Cornelius's to eliminate that sketchy stop on the south side of Fred Meyer's and focus on a good, already highly utilized stop at 20th there, and then also the highly utilized stop that's on the north side at Fred Meyer's. It's odd because normally we want them directly connected, but this is like, I'm sure some of us have gone to university or gone to a park, and you notice there's pathways cut right through the grass, whether there's a sidewalk or not, right? And that's kind of what we're seeing here. This is the natural occurrence in the community, is to grab the bus westbound at the Freddy's and to grab it eastbound at the intersection of 20th. So I think we're just kind of accepting and supporting the natural flow of people to the bus in our area and getting rid of, in my opinion, a sketchy bus stop on the south side of Fred Meyer's.
Yeah, okay, yeah, thank you. I mean, I would ask you to defer to the community of Cornelius to decide where they want those stops, but that sounds like the right option. And I like the kind of redirect the human behavior or match the infrastructure to the human behavior. It should also result in more safety.
Great points, Counselor. And Mayor, thank you for that. Any other comments from the committee? Yes, Ana Diana.
Yeah, this is Ana Diana again. And a couple of things I'd like to point out. The large distances between the Fred Meyer stop and 14th even is a lot, especially for someone who lives with some kind of mobility disability. And, I'm sure many of us are aware of the fact that more than 25% of our population lives with some kind of life-changing disability. But not all that many seem to be aware of the fact that more than 7% of our population below the age of 18 also live with some kind of life-changing disability. And in all around the region, our demographic is changing. People are aging. More people are moving out here because it's affordable. And one question that comes to my mind, because of the fact that Fred Meyer's is one of the most expensive in the region, so I quit shopping there, but who is it that we really serve? The commerce or our community? And right now, we do have Ride Connection, does have the Grove Link, which was mentioned earlier, which goes to 14th, and, but people coming from the north and the south, and then having to go a larger distance to try to get to the TriMet system, it's going to be really hard for them. And when I was out there with a walker, you know, it really made a big difference, you know, and the distances I had to travel. And so my personal feeling about this is that since there's going to be a stop on 26th, which will help serve those new apartments and stuff, and then the stop on 20th, choosing whatever plan gives the most even, equitable distribution would probably behoove us to choose that one, because otherwise somebody's going to be yelling discrimination.
Thank you for your comments on that. Any other comments?
A follow-up to Ana Diana's comment.
Yes.
I remembered this from planning, but if you went with the options, is there like any value, like can the stop be at 16th, at 14th, and putting down that distance between the two? Is that something considered?
That's not been part of our analysis, and I think that the spacing is just always going to be very challenging. I think that at this point, there's not much opportunity to mix and match different options and come up with different scenarios, but I think that this is definitely the trade-off that we are discussing today. We heard in the Community Advisory Committee, I thank you for sharing your views, and I think this was the kind of hard topic in that group as well. Talking about that there are differences, when you're coming from a different direction, and the spacing of that half mile, usually, when you're looking at that distance, you're really only walking half of that. Not to say that you're not coming from north or south of the corridor, and that added distance is absolutely part of the picture. But I think that that's also was kind of discussed and shared among the community members, is that the half mile distance is if you're walking from Fred Meyer to 14th. Typically, there might be a scenario where you can catch the bus again with our decent headways. And also you can, continue on and wait different things. This is the trade-off that we are here to ask you guys to discuss. So thank you for raising that and clarifying.
Councilor Gonzalez. Okay. You want to, Councilor Schimmel? Oh.
All right, thank you, Chair. I'm curious about the relationship between the link buses and these new stops, if the intention is to adjust the link routes to the new stops as part of the comprehensive plan.
We haven't discussed detail yet, but that will absolutely be something that we dig into once the station, placement is determined. We will be coordinating with them in the next design phases to understand if they need to move, where they would move. We'll be working with them closely to make sure that those connections stay logical and convenient for all of the users.
The nature of the question was with respect to the concern whether the adjustment would close the distances or to dampen or avoid the extra pedestrian distance.
I like your thinking. We haven't looked into it, as I said, but I think that can absolutely be part of the conversation. Could the two work together to serve all of the needs? We haven't started those conversations, but this is a great way to do that.
Councilor Gonzalez.
Thanks, Sam. Just want to say the South 19 stop is probably rode that like 300 times as a kid, maybe 500. So a lot of good memories. Standing at the pole on the side of the road, Mayor. So I want to ask a question about option A. In the slide, I think before this, you talk about engaging with the community groups in the downtown core and talking about the flexibility they indicated. Can you talk to me more about the conversations with those stakeholders? And you know, I think I've also heard directly from folks as well that I think I'm concerned about what might feel like engagement that didn't maybe meet the needs of the community or actually understanding how to engage. So maybe if you just help me understand a little bit more by what you mean by that bullet point, it might help me support the decision making further.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. I think when we presented this information in the first meeting, there was just a lot of sharing of thoughts, and there wasn't a lot of preference sharing in that first meeting. It was a lot of listening, talking about the trade-offs, talking about the destinations under discussion. As you know, we have representation from Central Cultural and Virginia Garcia, who are right at 12th. We all, it was a lot of discussion at that first one. In the second one, we came back with responses to some of the questions that came up with a little bit more analysis. And that was where we really dug into those charts that are shown on, I think, pages 9 and 8 of your slide, to really look out and map out the distances from each of the destinations, those two being 2 of the 5 that we looked at. And, it was actually Virginia Garcia that shared the first kind of a preference for an option. And he said, I think something, about being bummed that he, that it wasn't hitting his spot, but saying, B and C made a lot of logical sense. The group kind of peppered around and shared similar feedback with continued kind of bummerness, I think is the best, not the most professional term, but bummerness about the kind of where that landed. But I think that there was a lot of consensus and discussion. Nancy, we had a lot of conversations during the meeting and kind of outside of the meeting leading up to the preparation of the CAC. She was part of the steering committee last year in the early phases as well. And so she was engaged kind of at the tail end of the steering committee at the LPA decision. After that, and we did do some site visits, we did some walks with them, did some one-on-one discussions with them and your Metro staff, and had a lot of that discussion. I think that it is, again, this is the other trade-off. It's really the fundamental things that we are here to hear about, and happy to answer any other clarifications.
Yeah, thank you. That's really helpful. I mean, looking at the slide context, it shows the ridership details for that 10, 12, 14th. And I want to acknowledge that from the very beginning of the first project scoping, we knew this was going to be a very complicated stop shifting to manage. So I want to acknowledge and give grace to that. I think from my vantage point as a policymaker, looking at the data and that the 12 stops have some of the highest on and offs there, it's just a lot of good. There's going to be a lot of people that are impacted, and so for me, I want to feel like beyond just the institutional representatives, like the community members that rely on that bus stop on a daily basis, like I just don't want them to feel surprised and be like, you told me this project was going to help me and you took this away from me, which is a very difficult thing for all of us to manage up here. So as a part of the kind of the stop refinement, has there been deeper engagement with community or riders of those stops, or has it really been just at the CAC level? And there's no right or wrong answer. I'm just curious.
I think the broader community engagement was through the survey at the last phase, where we did kind of reach across the region and had a lot of answers specific to Cornelius and just across the region. This phase so far, we have mostly talked to the Community Advisory Committee, though we have encouraged and asked them to go to their members in between the meetings and come back with that feedback. We aren't auditing that process, but I do, believe that they've all had conversations broader than themselves representative. I think that the thing that we discussed with them, and part of the challenge of the spacing needs, is that when you look at 10th plus 14th, the ridership at 10th plus 14th, and you compare that to 12th, which are the options on the table, it starts to get a little bit more equalized. I think that also shows with some of the questions that we asked in the survey last time. 12th definitely had a strong preference, but so did 10th. And then again, when you look at the options on the table and you compare 10th plus 14th to the 12th, you're really serving a very broad number of the community members at large and kind of throughout the corridor. And so those were the conversations that we had at the Community Advisory Committee. And I think we're really part of kind of where we landed on the general support for B and C is just it provides those more, distributed spacing in that downtown core and supports a lot of that.
Yeah, great. And then in terms of what you need from us for like the A, B, or C, are you hoping from this meeting to get like general consensus around one option to move forward, or are we still doing like kind of subbing? I'm seeing nodding head from Michael here.
I think we're looking for, we want to come out of this meeting with a recommendation or with the information Sam needs to feel strong about making a recommendation. And so I think that whether it's straight up consensus or just kind of group decision, group recommendation, that is what we're hoping to come out of today.
Okay, thank you.
As well, since you brought it up, I know that Cornelius and the mayor prefers option C. So are there consensus around the benefits of this alignment around the table? So just asking for input from the table itself and online.
Can I ask another question?
Yeah, also, I did see Councilor Sinclair with
Yeah.
her hand up, but it's like a line of sight.
It's okay. It's okay. I was going to interrupt at some point, yeah.
Sorry about that.
No. A question I have is about the properties. So the green indicator for the city-owned property for development, I know it says to be determined. I'm just trying to factor in the density aspects of on and offs and future impact that could have, that we have no idea what's being planned.
So the one on the corner 14. Thank you. You think I just leave it on when I'm running the meetings? That's where I'm at, bad habits. Yeah. So the 14th is the Future Community Center. The 10th, we don't have a final plan, but that might just be turned back over to commercial redevelopment because that was a derelict gas station for the last 20 plus years, and the city took it over to be able to go through the reclamation of that property, and we just finished up that work. So we haven't found the next owner. It may be us, but probably it could be a commercial redevelopment on 10th. But that's also a major connector into the southern part of the city. So that's why you can see the ridership that it gets today is okay.
Yeah.
There's also the other one at 14th, the other green one, the Grande Foods development, which is, I think, where we were indicated to park, where Peter suggests we park. That is a city-loaned lot that is also slated for development.
Yeah, I always get that. Is it 3 or 3.5 acres? 3 3/4 acres that we are currently the landlords of for the future destiny of formerly known as Grande or, Thriftway property.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for that information. The reason I wanted to inquire about that is because then when we look at option B versus C, that density, that future density could equal out that balance with what Ana Diana had conveyed to where it could even out that ridership of the need for that gap to be more vital for option B.
And to be clear, in option B or C, all of it's the same from 14th West. So it's 10th and 14th basically in both those. I think it's really the B versus C. And the question I had, if I may, Chair, can you explain the 39 lifts listed at the Fred Meyer driveway, what that represents?
The lifts?
Yes.
Those are monthly lifts. So that's the amount of times that the wheelchair ramp goes down.
Versus the total ridership.
Yeah.
Okay. And I thought that's what it was when we talked about it downtown. And I think that kind of talks to one of your points. That is the highest single lift point of its own in the city. So obviously folks that are needing the bus to lower itself for load, unload, that's the spot where it's getting a lot of attention right now. So just bringing that one up. It's not, I don't think it's as much worrying about the serving the commercial versus the community. The communities, though you may not choose to shop there, that is your choice. I am fully aware that there's two other shoppings west and east of there that folks quite often frequent. But I think that's, the community speaks to how much they use the Fred Meyer stop. It's a much higher used and utilized stop, both for those that are able-bodied and those who are requiring the bus to do a squat. So that, a couple items I saw in the previous analysis.
I just wanted to add something to that. There is a shelter at the Fred Meyers, and that is one reason why a lot of people might prefer currently to use that stop. And then the only other comment I really wanted to make was that, excuse me, if we build it, they will come. And if we build it properly, our ridership will increase because people will know that they can rely on what we've built.
Counselor.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I mean, looking between B and C, I mean, there's eventually, I mean, there's way more stops now on here, and we're looking at basically what the final project phasing would be. And so it's not until, you know, before the school year of 2030 that we would be closing these stops, I'm assuming, but like help me understand actually what does that phasing look like during construction stations and things like that. I think like on a technical level, I feel like option B to me resonates just because, I mean, this is assuming 5 years down the line, not just right now, because the lift will still be usable at Fred Meyer for the next 4 years. I think that I see that as a huge benefit, but assuming that again in 4 years we have the ability to have both that 26th, 20th enhanced station, you know, fingers crossed interest rates turn around and we have some big construction happening here in Cornelius, Oregon. And I think that that entire neighborhood development would be well served by the two stops. And I see a lot of benefit to the north-south and to the Council Creek Trail that will be there as well. So, I mean, between B and C, we're really spoiled for choice. But I do think that when I see the 14th to the Fred Meyer and seeing a half a mile stretch is pretty significant. And I know a lot of the businesses in that 50-mile stretch, just in general, have it's kind of like it's I don't know how to say this, kind of struggle because of traffic and because of visibility and things like that. And so I think one of the big cases that we make with FX service, and I think this is playing out in 82nd Avenue as well in the project in East Portland, or in Portland that's happening, is that when you have these platform stations, you increase the pedestrian access, you increase the neighborhood's connection to the main street or to that corridor. And so I think that there's like a lot of economic benefit as well to the option B that I would see for the entire area. So anyway, this is just me going off of lines and dots on a page and some lived experience. But again, I think the differences between B and C are so small on face level that we're really trying to split hairs as to what we want to prioritize or trade off. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other thoughts? Counselor?
Thank you, Chair. Well, if you can would indulge me on a constellation for 12th. The flash and beacon seems like a mutually exclusive from the new or changing bus stops. That is there an opportunity to fast track that? Mm-hmm. To get that done as it's a safety hazard already, and if it were already committed to it?
I don't know about that. One of the questions that we have is still how it will be funded, because I think that, but we are committed to having it be part of the project, so we can definitely explore if that could be something that is done faster. We'll say there's cost savings in doing it with the whole project in terms of the traffic control and all of that, but we'll definitely take that into consideration.
Just so I'm clear, sorry, we're talking about the south side crosswalk basically between Veterans Park and the Mercado?
Yep,
what we're
and that's
thinking about?
happening regardless of the
Yeah,
options
yeah, yeah.
selected.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Just wanted to make sure I was tracking.
City Manager.
If I might just chime in on that, we intend to, have intended to install that on our own because it is such a glaring need, and so we would love to work with the project if we can somehow do that right away and then, you know, work that out in the project. That'd be helpful.
Okay, Michael and Gwen, I think that I'm going to try to turn to both of you to summarize this, because it seemed like B and C were conversations around a table. So I can't say that we have a consensus, but could you please summarize for us?
Yeah, and feel free to chime in. I mean, there is a little bit of a split. We haven't heard from everyone on their preference between C and B. Obviously, there are concerns around the distance between stations related to C. B would close that gap. There is high use at Fred Meyer, and it also provides additional land use transportation connection, which is something we always look for in these projects, is how are we looking at current and future growth, and how does that connect to transit? I don't know that we have a full consensus, but would like to open it up if additional members have a preference over one of those two, because right now it is somewhat split.
Yeah. I think it's really important when we have a community advisory that we really take into account their recommendation. That's why we have an advisory like that, because these are the people that use our neighborhoods in the aspect that we're trying to serve them. In further thinking about, you said there was an additional grocery store near between 10th and 14th. Is that correct? Ronde?
There's the Grande Foods is across the street. There are other grocery stores kind of at the 20th. The Walmart is right there, and it's right there at 20th, 19th, kind of comes down. So there are other grocery stores in the area.
Yeah.
There are 2 Mexican grocery stores on 10th as
Yes.
The Walmart's on 4th.
Oh.
There's the Mercados in the middle, and then at Freddy's at there. I was going to add one more. I was going, why is it that nobody's walking in that area? And I said, I had to stop and think about it. I'm like, oh, that's because the businesses between 20th and 17th are all automotive. So it's Dave's Automotive, Cornelius Tires, and Affordable Automotive. They're not pedestrian interest points. They're kind of the DMZ. So you actually, if you go from the Happy Garden to 14th, it's a 1/4 mile walk. And if you go from Walgreens to the Freddy's, it's less than a 1/4 mile walk. So these are your mobility interest points. And I was going, for some reason, it made more sense to me when I looked at it before the option C. And that's part of, I think, where my head got to there, is because you don't have pedestrian interested businesses on that north side in basically that middle of that traffic zone between 14th and 20th or Fred Meyer's. So that was part of why I kind of leaned towards that, the Fred Meyer's over the 20th one. So just giving you how did my head get there around that before. So thank you.
And I would just like to follow up on what Councilor Sinclair said. If you could refresh our memories, Diana, your comments about what option.
Well, there was not a clear consensus in the CAC. Excuse me, we were sort of split between B and C. But from conversations with people that I went on a walking trip with, one of the fellows, he had been sold on C at first, but after doing that walk to 14, the fact that you can't see what's coming up around, they had changed their mind that B would probably be better. And again, we never know when some kind of mobility disability is going to come You know, it could be temporary, it could be permanent, whatever. There are also businesses right there in 20th. There's a small strip mall that's got sushi and ice cream and a bunch of other things. And then there's, and, and there's those businesses in between where the road splits that, you know, that are also served from there. And yeah, I know this isn't about me, but as a person who had been a fully ambulatory person, but now sees the world from this view, you know, a few feet shorter, it just, in my mind, makes us, I'm thinking about your abuela when she goes shopping, you know, put a shelter there where she can sit comfortably and wait for the bus, and 20th won't be that inconvenient. Exactly. And so, you know, but first we have to give it to them. And the problem with the stops that we currently have on 14th and 17th and 20th is there is no shelter. And so I think that's part of the reason why the ridership is higher over in front of the Fred Meyers.
And as a reminder, all of these stations will have shelters.
Yes, I'm quite aware of that and thinking about that.
Counselor?
Yeah, I mean, just to chime in on that, I mean, I think it's, given the fact, and I think Commissioner Willie was talking about this earlier, and Sam, you talked about the amount of plans for decades that we've touched on for TV Highway, and just the way the community has adapted to the built environment and really to the lack of investment for generations, that it's kind of hard to imagine what it would look like with these new amenities. And so I think, like, to the point that we just kind of agreed to here, that these stations will all be such a level raiser to be able to serve our abuelas, our tias, and our tios and things like that in Cornelius. So I think that's really exciting. And I do want to help the project team here, kind of like they do need us to give them a B or a C. So, you know, I think it would be great if we could go around and like maybe say which one our top preference is, or maybe rank it 1, 2 or something like that. But anyway, not trying to push too hard, but I know we have to help here.
And Commissioner Willie, would you give us your thoughts?
Yeah, well, you know, as we think through this, I do not know the businesses up and down, north and south, as well as the mayor does. And then listening to you, Juan Carlos, and, you know, 10 years ago when we were having this conversation, our stops would have been different 10 years ago than they are now. So I think the fact that we've been able to look at future development and a little bit more of a set venue, I guess, if we want to call that, between 26th and 4th, gives us much better perspective. From my standpoint, I'm going to defer to the mayor because, like I said, he knows his city certainly better than I do. The only question I would have is, are you willing to, is the Fred Meyer stop a good trade-off of 20th? Because it seems like that's what we're trying to decide here between B and C. And so I don't know that answer. So I'm going to rely on you, Mayor, to give me some direction.
So we'll do it one more time. We'll go around just very quickly. Option B or C. We'll start with you, Mayor.
To me, the data makes it easy to go with option C, but I'll be honest. If the committee went with B, it's not a loss, right? I think you said it best, Juan Carlos, is an abundance of opportunity and decision here, right? There's not a terrible, right? I think we got past the whole 10th, 12th, 14th, which we thought was really going to, if you'd asked me 6 months, a year ago, it was all going to be about 10th, 12th, and 14th. And I think we've gotten around the idea that it's better to have 10th and 14th than just 12th. So I think that's kind of wrung out of this. So now we're to use the vernacular of my father, we're trying to figure out what's in the salt and pepper shaker besides pepper, right? It's all little black dots of stuff. So I don't think either one's a terrible decision. But I just have a preference. And I think your point, Juan Carlos, about the idea that the built environment in yours too, about the built environment already draws everybody to Freddy's, right? It is a place where people go to shop. They do go, you got to get your Panda Express because obviously it's busy as heck there too. But if we built a beautiful stop with a pullout at 20th, it might start drawing some kind of attention to, you know, with the built environment having a cover. So I don't think that's a terrible decision. I'm not going to fight over 20th if that's what the committee thinks. So that's my feelings, so.
Really appreciate it. And Stephanie from ODOT would love to just get your thoughts as well.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I guess I had a quick question, and again, these are just dots on a piece of paper, so forgive me. But at the Fred Meyer stop, it looks like the stop is actually a little bit offset from the intersection and a little bit further north. And just knowing the safety aspect and the importance of this project, and pedestrians will cross sometimes the street at that stop, does that put, is it more I don't want to say more dangerous, but is there an opportunity to move it either closer to the intersection for option C, or then, I guess, go with option B?
I think that's a really good point. I think that the main kind of safety benefit that we're providing with option B is that the pair is not on the south side of the street, and so there's no desire to cross the south side of the street, obvious, and then there's no destinations that people would be coming from the south side of the street due to the railroad. So we feel that folks, and the ridership pattern shows this today, folks may be using the Fred Meyer up on the north side of the street, but then they're going to 20th anyway. So that was part of that, but it is a good point.
And do you have any thoughts on option B or C?
I support either option B or C, and that's not helpful at all.
Sam, could I offer something?
Yes.
One thing to consider as we're thinking of these stops is this is a long-term investment, right? And what I heard mention is the stops we chose today would not necessarily be the stops we would have chosen 10 years ago. This corridor is going to promote change, density, a more lively community. Getting the stop spacing correct, and we're working on 82nd with some of the similar issues where it's an auto-oriented corridor today. So we're trying to think beyond that to how is this going to transition into something that the community really wants and needs. And so I would offer up with an option B, we get the kind of spacing that sets up this corridor for the future. 26 can serve the land use transportation connection that will happen with additional development down there. And it could be a long-term win if we're thinking beyond the auto-oriented uses that exist in that kind of half-mile stretch today. So something to consider as we look forward.
Okay, just looking around about option B, just around the table, everybody feels pretty comfortable?
I will just say one thing is I look at the bubble diagram, I guess, on page 4, where it shows the lifts and the on and offs, and the Fred Meyer driveway is very close to the top, and I'm just concerned about the 39 lifts, that if we don't have that stop, where do those lifts go?
So Jerry, I would tell you my personal experience, because I do shop at Freddy's. I'll just fully disclose, I shop at Freddy's. What you see is folks come out the south doors of Fred Meyer's, and then they walk between the Burger King and the gas station, and then they step onto the bus stop that goes westbound. That's the current real. If you're looking for the burnt up grass in the road, that's what happens. And if they're in a mobility device like a scooter or something like that, then they'll go around to the little driveway that's basically between the gas station and Panda, and then go back to the Fred Meyer stop. But like we said, it's because the built environment's there, right? So that's kind of the thing that happens. And to Stephanie's question about what happens, I was looking at it on the map again. We have a light at the Fred Meyer entrance that is immediately adjacent to the bus stop that exists at Fred Meyer's today. And in spite of that light being right there, folks will walk out the south door of Freddy's, cut in between the gas station and the Burger King, and then walk across the highway 5 lanes wide when you could throw a rock from here to that door and hit a lit cross. And that's where we've had people hit and screeching brakes and everything else. So I can't make people make good decisions. I've literally asked ODOT to put a wall up. I literally want a fence and a wall there so people can't cross to that south side bus stop at Fred Meyer's, because it's so dangerous. Because they'll not walk over to that doorway to cross. So they'd rather play Frogger. So I'm happy to get rid of that bus stop.
So I want to say thank you. This has been a great discussion. I know that we're running a bit behind here. So wanted to just know that if we put option B on the table, just kind of a nod around the table, how you guys feel about that.
Like I said before, like I said, Sam, I wouldn't fight against option B. I'm like 51-49 is probably the way I'd split my vote for 20th, the existing Fred Meyer's versus building the new stop. And I think that's the one thing too that we hadn't talked about, and it's probably the right focus. We're looking towards the future. What's the long-term thing? We have a stop that's a bus pulls out into every day at Freddy's now. So it's kind of the low to no cost answer there. There is a more capital intensive investment to 20th because it's the pole.
Thank you. Councilor Hartmeyer-Brigg, I can't see you. Just wanted to get a nod from you as well on option B.
Yes, I'm good with that.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, thank you all for that conversation. This is exactly, and I think I heard Councilor Sinclair talk about it, what the Policy and Budget Committee is so valuable to the project for us to discuss what the people are telling us. So really appreciate it. For our next presentation, I would like to invite our TV Highway Project Director, Josh Brennan, to join Michael at the table for the staff presentation and discussion about vehicle selection. This is one of those times when I'm going to lean on you as members of our Policy and Budget Committee to check our work. When we first started dreaming all the ways we could improve service on Line 57, we assumed that the need in the corridor was a 60-foot battery electric bus. We also thought that because we had 60-foot buses at Merlot Garage in the past, we could easily bring them back. So now that we have formally entered the project development phase, we're completing deeper analysis of our assumptions to make sure they are both viable and durable. So I've directed the team to validate all of the thinking to make sure we are designing the right project and keeping the commitment to the FX experience on the corridor. So that has led to this conversation with you about what is the right bus for TV Highway project. So with that, the experience is defined by a high quality, frequent service, customer amenities, and safe access improvements, not the size of the vehicle. The project delivers significant rider improvements on opening day. 12-minute frequency, all-door boarding, transit signal priority, enhanced pedestrian crossing, attractive, comfortable, and well-lit stations. The vehicle size decision does not affect any of these core project benefits. I am committed to these outcomes. So now that you have heard that commitment from me and some of the background on how we got here, I'm going to pass the presentation to Michael Kaiser.
Thank you, Sam. And I just want to say I appreciate the conversation around the stations and how you all engage in the respectful nature. It's my first time with this committee, and to see how you all work together just in this first meeting is really encouraging. So thank you for that. On the table for the first time is a meeting to discuss vehicle length and propulsion. We've done a lot of technical analysis around these considerations that we'd like to talk about tonight. We are looking over I think by the next Policy and Budget Committee to make a decision on this so that the team can kind of move forward on their design work as this does affect their work in 30%. In this discussion, we're going to be sharing information on both the vehicle length, as mentioned, 40-foot versus 60-foot vehicles, and propulsion, which really comes down to battery, electric bus, or R99 renewable diesel. In April, at our April Policy and Budget meeting, we'll be responding to any feedback tonight to inform the decision at that next meeting. So I want to pass the mic over to Josh. He's going to walk through the analysis that we've done and look forward to the conversation that follows. I do know that we're running behind in time, but we should be able to get through this fairly quick. Josh?
Yes. Thank you, Michael, and General Manager DeSue and the rest. Mic is on now. And the rest of the Policy and Budget Committee. As you heard from our General Manager, TriMet started the evaluation of vehicle selection, focused on riders, quality of service, and the current and future ridership being at the top of mind to selecting the right bus to serve the corridor. So it's essential that we state up front that TriMet will deliver high-quality FX service to riders and the community, regardless of the size of the vehicle. We commit that this project will provide all-door boarding, transit signal priority, enhanced pedestrian crossings, attractive, comfortable, and well-lit stations regardless of vehicle size. The vehicle size decision does not impact any of these core project benefits. FX standards are for the project to aim for 3 mobility devices spots based on initial conversations that we have had with a manufacturer related to these 40-foot buses. Those are things that we've looked into, and that can happen. Those initial conversations indicated the ability to purchase these buses for a fleet of BRT vehicles to serve this corridor. And these buses will have the larger door in the back and hop readers at each door. For these reasons, we can provide the same high-quality service with both a 40-foot or a 60-foot vehicle. One note about the 40-foot bus, and even though you have the dual door boarding, is that we won't be able to have the bikes on the bus. So the bike will go on the front of the bus. We don't anticipate that type of activity to really affect the overall headway gains that we're still looking for to provide 12-minute headways versus the current 15-minute headway that the current Line 57 provides. I just brought up right now, like a little bit, it might be kind of hard to see. There's some statistics here about current ridership. And what this is trying to demonstrate is that with expected ridership growth from this FX project can be accommodated on this 40-foot bus. Even with considering a 40% increase is what we saw on FX2 for the Division Transit project. Not trying to put too much context in relative to that, but with that projected growth, we would still serve and not have pass-ups. That's the whole point, is like when you have that vehicle length, we were concerned and we wanted to find out what the data would show with us with our current ridership. And it's been determined that for the foreseeable future, even with that projected ridership growth, whether we see it over a 10 or 12-year cycle, which is kind of the life cycle of a bus, we feel like we're in good shape to still be able to provide that level of service and not pass by people. When we look at the chart on the right, it shows that we still have significant excess capacity on the 40-foot buses while providing those 12-foot headways, or 12-minute headways. What I've just brought up here is kind of an image of our current Merlot facility that you're looking at right now. And we have found that 60-foot buses are not feasible at Merlot without significant modifications and improvements. Conceptual design estimates yield an approximate $270 million price tag, which is not feasible for all of us in the near term. I mean, these are the things that are needed to do that. And so what the diagram is trying to show here is the summary of some of those constraints, and I'll kind of speak to those quickly. The existing tire shop is built for 40-foot buses and cannot accommodate 60-foot buses. The existing fuel wash facility was built for 40-foot buses and cannot accommodate 60-foot buses without unreasonable impacts to routine operations requiring additional staff and time. The maintenance building can only reasonably accommodate 60-foot buses on the northeast half of the building due to the difficulty of maneuvering an Arctic bus on the south side of the building. This means having to reverse the articulated bus out of the space on some of these bays, and you might have another bus that's behind it. So these are like really pointing out a lot of the inefficiencies with the current state of Merlot. All right, and then kind of diving into this slide, you can read here that further study has confirmed that this price tag is what we're staring at to get to a place where Merlot can service vehicles at a 60-foot length in both routine and non-routine maintenance. So during work completed studying Merlot, which really only happened earlier this fiscal year, it became evident that 60-foot buses were not feasible without significant modifications and improvements. Building was built back in the mid-80s, and we anticipate that upgrades would trigger significant code needs that would require a full rebuild. Like looking at the possibility of rehabbing it and with a cheaper price tag, there's just so many glaring things that come out of that for the challenges from that initial study, and that's where that initial study gives us that kind of current projected cost of $270 million in what you would consider today's dollars. This level of cost, $270 million, is far outside the project scope and budget. It is also important to know that the maximum small start CIG, the capital investment grant project, federal match is $150 million for the whole project. And we have been aiming for a project right around $300 million, getting that kind of 50-50 coupon, as we call it, from the federal government. So this level of improvement in Merlot is not feasible along with other components of the project. This size of a project of Merlot is also not possible in the timeline that we are working towards with a fall 2030 opening. Even if we were to start trying to find this funding today, or it was found magically, the construction would not take off, the design and construction would not be built in time to expand it out, to accept those types of vehicles, the 60-foot vehicle. Right here we just kind of have another bubble chart, kind of trying to outline what we're looking at when we compare the 40-foot and 60-foot buses. Quality of service, I've just kind of walked you through that. You still get that. Current and future ridership, both the 40-foot bus satisfies that. Feasible within operational constraints. I've gone through the reasons why 60-footers are not able. We are not able to do that in Merlot at this time. Kind of one thing that's kind of another point here to other folks have asked about cost savings and things like that. it does minimize the funding gap, just because the fact that those buses are less, they cost less when you compare a diesel R99 bus to a battery electric bus. And then federal funding commitments and readiness, we can be more ready with a 40-foot bus and be able to put that forward into our SSGA request, also in moving into our more near term, our ratings, readiness rating materials. And that's really a big driver of the schedule that we've been talking about, is to keep meeting our timeline so that we can keep hitting the 2030 opening date. I guess I would hold it for any questions about length right now. Did anybody have anything initial about that discussion?
Yeah, I have a question. So if we go with the 40-foot as you're proposing, will the stops be built so they could eventually be built out for a 60-foot bus?
Yeah, there's definitely some talking points a little bit later about that. We wanted to inform you
Sorry.
that yes.
Yes.
No, it's great. It's a good question. You know, sometimes those things just come out organically, is like, yes, the intent is to build the entire corridor to accommodate 60-footers. The hope is that ridership grows. The hope is that we do get to a point where that 60-footers are needed, and that timeline, we would try to work as within the agency to make Merlot capable of handling that in the future. And that's definitely a part of ongoing and future studies and continuing that work that other delivery groups within TriMet would be looking at, specifically our buildings and facilities groups.
Mayor?
No, I think the universe spoke and it said 40-foot buses. When the whole project for Merlot Garage is the cost of, almost the cost of this whole project, that kind of makes it real easy to not argue about 40 versus 60 footers. And, you know, in the future, you'll be able to build that new garage to service the 60-foot buses in Cornelius, and then we'll be fine, right? So.
Ana Diana?
Okay, I would like to see a show of hands. How many people ride the Line 57 regularly? Okay, I was afraid of that. Okay, I would, prior to the quarantine, the buses were so overcrowded, I had talked TriMet into, during peak hours, speeding up, having twice as many buses, because I practically had people sitting in my lap, okay? Even now, during peak hours, I've been nearly injured by other passengers trying to get on with their walker or whatever, carry it over me, running into me, and because I use securement. I require securement because I've had incidents where, an incident where the bus had to stop suddenly and I banged my knee into the wheel well. Okay, I don't like to get injured when I'm traveling. It's pretty bad. Anyway, so that said, I'm happy to go on a field trip with any of you to experience that. The other thing that I have shared with some people is last year on a crowded bus, I was on my way home in Forest Grove, actually after having gone to Salem to testify. I was on my way back home looking for better funding for transit. And the bus was so crowded between Hillsborough and Forest Grove that I had half a dozen people verbally abusing me and telling me to get off the bus and let other people ride. And the worst of it was some dark-skinned man who got off at the Safeways and looked at me and said, "You probably think it's your white privilege." He doesn't know that I'm also on the Washington County Racial Equity Advisory Council, and that I had given my last $3 that day to some young black man who was stranded in Wilsonville so he could take the bus into Portland. Okay, but anyway, that aside, I have some questions. Now, with the 40-foot buses, near level boarding?
Yes.
Okay, because, yes, making the back door a little bit bigger, if we don't have strollers capable of coming on, wagons, scooters. People are bringing their rent-a-scooters and their personal scooters. I got a picture that I took on the way here from town today, well, actually from Beaverton. Some young lady on there taking up one of the mobility sections with her scooter. And not a mobility scooter, just a regular scooter, like you can rent downtown. People with bottles and cans, great big bags, wagons. We got a ad hoc group discussing what we should allow. But people who are doing their shopping, travel bags, they all wanted to ride the bus. And the timeline, you said 12 minutes as opposed to 15. I'm sorry, but right now I have to wait up to 40 minutes for a bus, okay? You know, I mean, it's not 15 minutes. It would be nice if it was. That'd be lovely. But, and so seeing improvement in the timing, that would be great. Are we hiring new maintenance staff to maintain these vehicles? Because I have been on a new vehicle that broke down in Aloha. We had to be off-boarded and put onto another bus so we could get the rest of the way home. And so those sorts of things need to be planned in the project as well. And that was all I had for my questions and input on that. Thank you.
Can I offer you just a couple responses? Is, you know, when you talked about that wider door, you know, we don't currently, like with a 40-foot bus, we don't have that in our fleet, so we don't have that ramp at the rear door. It is something that is an option, but for TriMet to do that, it would be something about training operators a little differently. The maintenance, you know, there might be some challenges there on the lifts if that ramp needs to be tested and deployed while it's up on the lift. So there are some things, but it is something that we can look at and we intend to. The other thing about, like, I'm not trying to mislead anybody about statistics about full buses, you know, because we consider a full bus also considers standing room. You know, that is part of what's considered the calculation for a full bus. But I understand what that can feel like when it's full with all these other things like bags of cans. So I can totally sympathize with what that feels like when I put a statistic out there that says full bus.
And these are, and when I say full bus, I'm talking about they're actually in front of that yellow line up by the operator as well.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there are that many people who want to get home. And it'll be nice to have the 3 mobility spots. I mean, because maybe I won't get left by the side of the road again. There was one day 2 buses had to pass me up. The third one had rearranged some passengers just so they could get me on, because that would have been my 3rd pass up.
Understood.
And, you know, it gets a little bit frustrating from this point of view, you know, because people want to get out there. We want the independence of being able to do that. Yes, I can take the door-to-door ride like I did this morning to get to Metro, but I only do that for special cases because I know the cost difference.
Yeah.
And anyway, so as I said earlier, you know, when we build it right, they will come. And those people who have not come back to riding will be there if we build it right.
Thank you.
I want to jump in just for a moment. First, I want to apologize to you on what you endured out there, first and foremost, because that's not who we are as TriMet. So I'll make sure I've took some notes here that I'll follow back up with you on some things that you said. Yes, I am going to direct staff to ask the Budget and Policy Committee so that we all can go out and experience the Line 57 together as a committee. And I think we need to be able to do that as we continue to design and build this line, is to really understand what everybody is experiencing out on the line. So really appreciate that statement. And then the things that differ from an FX experience versus our regular buses is reliability, and the speed is going to be different, just as what we've done on Division and what our plan is on 82nd as well.
82nd sounds like it's going to be an okay project. I've taken a couple of field trips out Division, and that's part of what motivated me to make sure that I get on this committee.
Thank you. I have a couple questions. when you're talking about people carrying capacity, what is the difference? Because I couldn't see that far with the small numbers. The 40 versus the 60. What is the sit and stand capacity between the two?
Yeah, on that particular slide, there was not that difference, so I can't really speak to that. Someone in our service planning department can speak better to that. What those two graphs were showing, we're trying to show with 40% increase with that one extra bus per hour, is that those statistics, the needle, at least from their ridership numbers, the taps and everything, they don't significantly change even during the peak hours, which is that 3 to 5 p.m. period. And that's really what that was illustrating. But not necessarily, I did not have a table there with what, the number of seats, even with this bus having would have one more mobility device space. I think we lost 2 seats. So that would be, instead of, it's 38, it goes to 36 or something like that. And then you would include the standing room only, but I don't know what that count is off the top of my head.
Okay.
We could get back to you on that.
That'd be great. Thank you. I have had long conversations with Ana Diana and rode on the bus with her before. And I know that you favor the 60-foot because of accessibility, and have observed many families in different levels struggle with trying to comfortably be on the bus when having strollers and walkers and things like that. Another question I have for you pertains to the budget. Can you go over some schematics for the budget? Because is this the typical cost of a garage? I'm assuming there's other 60-foot buses. Are all the carriages this budget that accommodate a 60-foot?
Well, I guess we could speak to something like our most recent project was the Powell facility upgrade, which started as a temporary facility and held a temporary status and way outgrew itself and its ability to do what it needs to do to maintain buses efficiently and everything. That project came in well over $200 million between both design and construction value. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but you might, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, it was even over, it was well over 2 million. I mean, part of what this triggers, it triggers a rebuild of the entire maintenance portion that could accommodate this. We'd have to relocate some existing uses on site, rebuild the fuel and wash. So that 300 million or 270 is looking at really a full upgrade to the facility, and it's not even everything that we would need for the future. So at this point, it certainly doesn't seem feasible on our side to make that site work for 60-foot buses.
Thank you.
Councilor Gonzalez.
Thanks, Sam. Yeah, I know that we're running short on time, so I thought about this entire portion of the presentation, so I have some comments I want to make for sure, is understanding to how we navigate this. I have to be really honest, when I learned that we were going from the 60 to the 40, it felt like a really significant blow to me, because I've been working on this project for 7 years, and my understanding was always that MERLA would be able to support this. And I understand that project development really helps us understand on a much deeper level feasibility. So I have grace that that's why we go through these things, to actually understand. And aside from what was shared already about rider experience, I think to me it begs a deeper question, which is what's the future for Washington County altogether in terms of clean vehicles and electrification and these really universal goals that are reflected in the RTP, that are reflected in our climate goals, that I know, we're all struggling with budget and things like that. So, generally speaking, and I get that the electric buses maybe at this point with the technology haven't panned out to be what we hoped they would be in terms of all the things, but from going to electric to renewable diesel, there's a reason why we wanted to transition away from the diesel and the diesel particulate matter and the air quality and the lungs and cancer and things like that. And so I think for me, there's that bigger question about what is the future. And I think right now as we're in this environment of cuts and like communities feeling like, well, maybe are other people getting deeper cuts? Are we not getting our fair share? I mean, we're in challenging times, which I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. I think that's a really hard pill to swallow. But I also acknowledge that we want to get a project done and really improve people's lives as much as possible. And so for me, you know, I know 82nd, I think they're doing hydrogen or nitrogen, well, a gas.
Hydrogen, yeah.
So I know it's an innovation for TriMet and the system. And so I think for me, like, again, I think this feels like a significant blow. And I'm trying to figure out, can we innovate in some other way? And I think I shared with Sam in passing, I've been thinking about, can we make this the first line in TriMet system that has universal Wi-Fi for riders or something like that? Like, let's give something to riders, to the working people that use the bus, to at least be like, you're not going to get the 60, but you're going to get this. So I'm going to keep pushing on Wi-Fi, at least, like, give me something. And you know, we can mull over the spreadsheets and things like that, and I can be reasonable. But there's, like, I think some really universal goals for what we were trying to do with this project. And I know we need to adapt for multiple reasons. So I'm going to be a good partner. I'm going to show up and work and make hard decisions, but just wanted to put those things and those thoughts and see how we move forward. And I totally get why it's so expensive for Merlo as well. Anyway, thank you. I know I took up a few
Thanks,
minutes.
Councilor. Commissioner Wiley.
Well, and I'm going to tag along on a little bit like this, and I'm going to try and be gentle, Sam. But it frustrates me that we are at this point in this stage, and all of a sudden somebody says, oh yeah, we can't use 60-foot buses because Merlo doesn't accommodate 60-foot maintenance. And you go, did somebody not think of that before they tossed that option out? We're getting ready to build stations for 60-footers, but there's no plan to build a maintenance station in Washington County that'll facilitate a 60-foot bus. So we're going to spend money in advance, hopefully someday, to get $300 million or more to build a facility that'll be able to maintain those buses. And I have to ask the question, how many 60-foot maintenance bus stations do we have in Multnomah County versus Washington County?
One.
Well, that's one more than we have, okay? But you got a hydrogen station as well. It just seems to me like we've got a deferred maintenance problem in Washington County. And I'd just like to make the comment that we need to have a little bit more priority on the west side out here to facilitate these kinds of services. And again, I don't mean to be caustic about this, but this is my mayor stuff coming back out from 8 years, saying we feel like we've gotten the short end of the stick with TriMet on a regular basis long term, and this is just one of them. So I would agree with you. 60-footers, it enhances our onboard, offboard time. It enhances our bicycle facility time. We being TriMet, has spent $1 bazillion on electric buses that we can't freaking use in Washington County. So something's wrong with the overall picture, and we're being required to modify and kind of downgrade this project because we didn't look far enough out to say, we need a maintenance station that facilitates a 60-foot bus. So that's my frustration with this. If I heard you correctly, we really don't have any options. It's a 40-foot bus. So like it or lump it.
Commissioner, thanks for your feedback. And I really appreciate the feedback around the table just for me to hear from all of you before we get to decision making on this. Commissioner, Councilor.
Thank you, Chair. I'm curious just to take a step back, and I didn't see anything in terms of a timeline. The bus seems to be a discrete swim lane in the overall project that has certain milestones you need to hit. So I'm not sure, or I haven't heard any qualifier that says that we have to decide today on a 40 or 60. Is there headroom for us to go explore, like, how do we get that money for that that station separately or explore these other avenues that have been mentioned.
I'll just say, you know, we were hoping to have a decision by next policy and budget meeting. We would love to be able to solve this problem, and it is not something we're happy to be moving forward with, and we are struggling with some of the maintenance challenges of our facilities. Merlot is definitely one of them. The exorbitant cost to try and do that right now, and fill, as Josh had mentioned, you know, a budget gap in this project. I'm not sure what options we have that we could even solve in the next 6 months.
Let me jump in, Michael. I think I appreciate the feedback today, and yes, we can come back and have conversations. Not looking for a decision today at all. I do want to give you a little heads up. So taking a job in 2021, one of the things that we're doing is looking at all of our facilities. We built, but we never did a state of good repair as we move forward. So now all of our buildings and our systems are reaching 40 years old, 30 to 40 years old. So now is a time that we're looking at how do we find the money? How can we work with the Federal Transit Administration and also the communities and figure out how to build on the west side? We do need a new facility, no question about that, on the west side. I know we just built the $300+ million facility that they were just talking about just recently. And it was, I'm talking, just to give you a tour of that building was pretty embarrassing to take anyone in the building. So we know with Merlot, it's time. And I've been pushing on the team to do that. At the same time, we had this perfect storm that came in that was called a pandemic, and we've seen a 56% increase in inflations. To your point, Councilor, as you were bringing up here, construction is one of those costs. You know, and if you look at what we're doing on 82nd Avenue, we're in the range of $350 million to $400 million with this project that we're talking about here. And that's not including the facility that we just built there with the cost. But yes, we have time to have a conversation and talk about the vehicles moving forward and what we want to do here as we move forward with this project.
And
Go ahead, Councilor.
yeah, and I mean, just some qualifiers for me. I don't have Commissioner Willie's experience. My experience is probably closer to yours. So I'm asking genuinely about just the timeline to take the pressure off the project team, and also if there's an assignment for us to go do some research or to pick up our mantle to go shake some trees for the money, you know, if that's necessary.
Michael, I think you may want to talk is if we take the time to do that, which I'm very open, it pushes the project implementation date out. Is that correct?
Yeah, it does. We can look at how much flexibility and come back and speak to that in the schedule, like what is the drop dead date, but it does push the schedule out. We worry about, too, as you kick out the project timeline, more inflation happens, more costs, and, you know, come with that. We do want to have a project, and that is our focus. And we want to be in a state of readiness for the federal government. And so we are trying to balance all of those items.
And I wasn't suggesting at all about extending timeline. I just understanding what the timeline is and what the milestones of making certain decisions, such as the size of the bus. That's all.
I appreciate that. So just taking a deep dive and taking from a research standpoint.
Well, my question was about the timeline within this particular swim lane of when do you need to make decisions about the length of the bus? And does this afford time to go probe on avenues for other alternatives or funding sources that, you know, we can go
work.
I was going to go chase the same dog, Brian, is that what's the drop dead date, right? I mean, I know how long it takes to order a fire truck, and you don't order a fire truck and get a fire truck next week. But we're talking about a project with a fall 2030, the bus needs to be here. So is it a 2-year lead time? Is it a 3-year lead time? Because we're basically 4 years out. So that's what we're looking for. I think Brian and I asked you first, what's that drop dead decision date? What's the day we have to commit to X manufacturer to get buses here, ready to roll in the fall of 30?
I'll speak to that. So we really, to keep the schedule for that fall 2030 opening, that the deadline that's staring at us is the 29th, and not necessarily just for the bus procurement needs, that it is a 2-year timeline. You have a pilot bus that's built, the testing, then you have all the training and everything, and all that has to line up. But in the meantime, we have a design team that's needing to understand just what we're doing with the vehicle. Even though we're going to do a 60-foot, we have the terminus at Forest Grove. That's a big item there, and a difference between 60-foot and 40-foot buses. So that's why getting them moving and then having the materials they develop that we can use for our packet to submit for our readiness rating in August, it really does push us to this next policy and budget at April 29th to move forward with a decision.
And just for clarification, what size are the buses that we're using right now?
40.
So are we going to have to order a whole new fleet of 40-footers? Are we going to?
Yes, these would be 40-foot vehicles, like I mentioned, with the wider rear door and with all of the FX branding and the dual tapping of hot pass readers at both. So they would be very specific. They would look and be branded just like the FX buses you would see on Division Transit project.
Okay. Sorry, I missed that part. But I didn't know what size bus we were using already. So, okay, thank you.
Just one other thing to consider, if we started the process of design on the garage today, it still would not be ready by an opening of 2030. So that's part of the delay thing. It's not so much ordering the buses that we have some lead time on. It's accommodating the design of the project for a particular vehicle type, but really it will be the facility itself, if we chose to go that route, that would hold us up.
I would also add one more thing about what Michael just said about Merlot. We definitely could not have that be a part of the CIG program. We would go across the ceiling of the $400 million, so that kind of puts us in a spot where we would not qualify in the program.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, so I just want to, I know that we're a little over time, but I think it was important for us to kind of work through some of these things. So I want to make a brief comment just because, and try and like maybe equalize, I think, the dynamic that is happening too, because as a Metro person, as a regional kind of partner here, and as chair of JPAC, like, I know that as we're doing these cuts, TriMet's getting beat up pretty hard, and so I want to just acknowledge and thank the staff for the work. And I think that there's kind of a duality of a relationship because in addition to the pandemic, we also did have a transportation package that, was shot down with hundreds of thousands of signatures. And so there is a responsibility that people on this side of the dais have to figure out funding for transit and transportation and projects generally, right? And so all of those things can be true, and as well as I think I can't disagree with Commissioner Willie's sentiments as well about the kind of the regional nature of prioritization and things like that. I think there are some real feelings there that we need to find a way to address and kind of grow beyond to build this regional system that I know we all dream of. But I just wanted to talk about that because we're all talking about the things that we want to do, and we had just had a short legislative session in which transportation was again beat up significantly. And what's our plan for 2027 or 2028 or 2029? And we cannot think about the future of all of the beautiful things that we want unless we really get our acts together around what is it that this region is willing to pay and how do we want to pay it. And until then, we're going to be in a deficit in a cutting environment. And that's a very challenging truth that I just wanted to share. And it counts, it's us as elected leaders and policymakers to also sell the value to our voters as well. And so I think just wanted to share that just because I know this is really challenging, but no easy way outs for us, as I think we all know. Just wanted to share. Thanks.
I really appreciate that. I just maybe ask the committee, do you want to wait 15 minutes and go through the propulsion conversation? Should we end the meeting and take this to the next, to the April meeting moving forward? So I wanted to get some thoughts.
I'm trying to figure out what really are the options. It's not 60 foot and it's not electric. It's 40 foot and diesel. So it's 40 foot and diesel or 40 foot and diesel is what I think I'm hearing. And the propulsion thing would be a nice thing to understand, but to me, it's not a factor in the decision-making process, is it? I mean, do we have a choice other than 40 foot and diesel?
Well, what we've looked at to date, especially with the challenges for, I would be getting into that in the propulsion discussion, there is, again, for battery electric buses, those things, the batteries are on top of the roof with all the electrical harnessing equipment. And the things that you need to do to access that roof line safely for our maintainers, we can't adapt that facility to really achieve that.
So the answer is no. I mean, it's a short answer, but it's no.
It's a hard decision.
We can't be electric,
Mhm.
and we can't be 60 foot. So again, I'm struggling with, we really don't have options here. We can spend another 15 minutes hearing about whether it's a diesel pusher or whatever it is, but it's going to be diesel and it's going to be 40 feet. So
You are correct
Okay.
at this moment.
With Wi-Fi is what I heard, Councilor Gonzalez said.
With Wi-Fi.
I second that motion.
All in
I agree
favor?
with that. Yeah. This is Ana Diana, and I see this as being an opportunity for the future to continue developing and build out the right plan. Start with, let's get the stations approved and underway, but have them so they can accommodate the 60-foot buses when we do finally get them over here, you know, because we will need them in the future. There's a lot of people out here who rely on the public transportation, and there will be more. We want to get those people out of their cars and make it attractive for them to use TriMet and other bus services to get around. So I agree that tabling the fait accompli that we've been facing here is probably a good idea, you know, because there isn't a choice for us. And so, yeah, let's move on.
Okay, let's table a propulsion piece of it. So Michael and Josh, just thank you for the presentation.
Sorry, Kip
Oh,
Rowland has a quick question.
I'm sorry.
So sorry. I have
Counselor,
one quick
yes.
question. And please forgive me, this is my first PMB meeting. I heard Ana Diana say build out. Has Merlot been started already? There's no.
No, there's no work has been started there.
Okay.
The only thing that's happened at Merlot has been
Okay.
some electrical charging type of
Okay.
infrastructure stuff.
That's what I was going to ask.
From previous commitments from
That's what I was
the
gonna ask.
original fleet, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And Counselor, the issue is that we don't have the $250 million. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so Michael and oh, sorry about that. Any outstanding questions that you have and what I need as a general manager to really make decisions informed by your feedback as we move forward. So thank you for joining us. Have a great evening. Let's continue to move forward.
Thank you.
The recording has stopped.